Next question is from Jose M279. What are your thoughts on fitness trackers? How do you think they are best used?
Yeah, so I know you guys are really big, fans of fitness trackers. I didn't use them a whole lot in my career until, relatively recently. The thing I like about fitness trackers, as I've used them more recently, is just they give you a better idea of your activity levels. They're not like the super accurate, don't look at them like that, but rather look at them as giving you kind of a picture, a wide view of what's going on. A lot of times people think differently than reality. I remember when Bodybug first came out years ago. This was one of the first legit fitness trackers. And, we would mess around with it with clients. And I remember I'd have clients that we would notice that on the days that they worked out, they would actually burn less calories than on the weekends, which sounds kind of crazy. And you'd never guess that. Like I would never have guessed that they would burn more calories on the weekend than they did during the weekend they were working out. But then when we broke it down, because once we saw that data, I said, okay, well, what's going on? Is the machine broken? What's going on? I would start asking questions. Okay, I know you train with me Monday for an hour.
How active are you the whole rest of the day?
Yeah, what does your day look like?
You're sitting the whole time.
I sit at work all day long. Okay, well, what did you do Saturday? Because Saturday you burn tons of calories. Right. Well, I washed the car, mowed the lawn, I went to the mall, went shopping. I was out on my feet all day till about 5 or 6 o'clock at night. And then it became quite obvious to us, it was all this extra activity that you were doing that wasn't even considered a workout, but you were burning a lot of calories. That kind of awareness can help a lot.
Yeah, I just look at it as acquiring more metrics, more data. And if that really drives you into a healthy place, I'm all for it. If you're that kind of attention to detail oriented type person where and I have trained quite a few clients like this that are into Strava and they're into all these like crazy analytics that like your average person like doesn't keep track of every single rep that they're doing. Like I used to have somebody that I trained that would actually count all the reps and like would tell me at the end like how much volume he had and all this stuff based off of our workouts and was driven to outdo that and like things like that, where it's like a motivator. But for a coach, I think it's helpful to just be able to kind of plot and put things out there so you actually can see more factors involved in that individual, because what we're trying to do really is to establish like what makes them unique and like where their patterns lie, behaviors, things like that. So if we can like peer into certain behaviors, like you do move more on the weekends and that's an advantage, on a highlight and show you why and like how to incorporate that through your week. So if it unlocks things like that where you can understand your behaviors better, I'm all for it. If it detracts you, if you get too obsessed with it, just like, IFYM, like if you're talking about, like tracking all your macros constantly and you're neurotic about it and you get stuck there. Like that's where I start to have a problem with it. And I've seen people get like too fixated on the exact data that they're doing to where that's what drives them in all their efforts.
So I'm for sure out of the three of us, like the most hardcore about this. Like this is a mandatory thing for me, like for clients. It just is. And the reason why that is I believe in my experience that almost everybody, okay, and there's always exceptions to the rule, but for the most part, 90% of clients that I've trained are stuck in that, Sal loves to talk about the 5 steps of awareness or whatever that you always talk about. 90% of everybody is truly unaware. And the reason why
they're unaware that they're unaware.
Exactly. Yeah. For the first step, right? So they're stuck at the first step.
Cognitive dissonance.
And the reason why I'm so confident that is I still am. There's very few people I've ever trained that have tracked as diligently as I have, taken it to a competitive professional level to where they were, everything I was for 3 years, right? And I still, you'll see if you watch our old videos and today, like I'm not wearing mine today, but I still utilize it all the time. Like all of a sudden I'll go on a kick where I decide like, you know what, I really want to, take my fitness up a notch right now, or I want to lean out for whatever reason. And before I do that, I strap on my Fitbit again to get a gauge, an idea of my. And here's what I've found over decades of using these tools, is that even as aware as I am, even as much as tracking that I've done, my behavioral changes or my behaviors change all the time. What we're currently doing right now because of COVID, I have different movement patterns and habits right now than just 4 months ago. 4 months ago, I made it to the mall at least a couple times in the month. I grocery shopped way more often instead of getting it Instacarted to my house. I was going to the gym where I was having to walk out of the park. So my behaviors are all, and in that 2 decades, I've had 3 or 4 different career changes where different jobs require me doing different things. I found out new things about the way I eat, and so my eating behaviors change. So I'm always using it as a way to check back in with myself and to just confirm what I might believe, right? Oh, I think I'm doing about this right now. Well, let's track and let's see. Now, and the thing that I know that like Sal and Justin like the least about these tools, and I agree, and I think Dr. Andy Galpin does a good job in his book Unplugged, kind of discussing this, is we've taken the fitness space, like always, has taken something really good and valuable, and then we've just bastardized it. Now it's like it's this competitive market, and there's tons of money to be made in it, and everybody's arguing over which one is 3% more accurate, which one has a better UI, which one offers this feature, which one It's like, okay, that's where this can get so nuanced and overkill for most people. Like I utilize the Fitbit literally just for I want to see my steps, what it's estimating that I'm burning in calories right now, and that's really it. That's enough to give me a really good idea of my activity level and allow me to start to build some sort of a structure diet-wise. What I don't do is I don't get hung up on the actual number. I don't go, oh, that says 2,700 calories I burn a day, therefore I'm going to eat X amount of calories. That's not how I work.
You're just looking at the trends.
I'm
right?
just looking at the trends. And because I've done it, and when you've done this enough times, I know, like for me, what a low amount of activity is, what a high amount of activity is, what is kind of an average range, what that looks like. And so it gives me insight on my current behaviors and my current habits of exercise, my current habits of movement, and then it allows me to start to adjust that from there. I don't get hung up on the exact number that the tool is feeding back to me. I'm using it as a gauge, the same way that I use a scale, the same ways that I use a body fat percentage. And I think they are incredible at giving people awareness of what they're doing, because just like you both alluded to, is most people, including ourselves who are professionals in this field, overestimate or underestimate.
Yeah, underestimate calories and overestimate activity.
Yes.
Every time.
Every time. And I still do this today. Two decades of being in this space, I still am always off a little bit. And so I think they're incredible. Now, if they become something that you are, so attached to and hung up on that it's like dictating.
If you're neurotic about it, it becomes dysfunctional.
And Dr. Andy Galpin gets into that, right? Like it's kind of like this, right? And I think in his book he actually uses this analogy. Before TomToms and what's Garmin's and all the navigation systems came out, I used to pride myself on being the person where once I go a place one time, you never have to tell me directions again. I just had this like photographic memory of remembering things and street names. I was really good at that. And when these got popular was when I was about 18 to 20 years old. And so once they came on, I thought they were really cool. They got it put into my car. Now, fast forward 10 years later, I am the worst. Yeah. Well, I can't.
You're super reliant on it.
I've lived in San Jose for 2 decades. I still use the damn thing to go to. If I go to a new restaurant, even though I'm super familiar with this whole city, I still use the damn thing because I become dependent on it so much. So you don't want to become like that. You don't want to become so dependent on these tools that you can't learn to kind of figure these things out for yourself. But also don't be a fool. They help. I'm not going to go to a new city and go to a store I've never been to and not use my tool. That's why I bought the damn thing. And I'm not going to go get a map out and prove to myself I can figure this out when I've got the resources. But I'm also not going to become so dependent on it that I don't open my eyes and pay attention to my surroundings and learn where the hell I'm going.